having invited me here and giving me an opportunity to discuss some of those ideas. So I'm talking about building distributed applications on blockchains. So how many of you have experience with blockchain applications? Very few people. So I hope by the end of this session, most of us have a good understanding of how blockchains function as distributed computing platforms and how they can be used to run distributed applications, and how these applications, which are called dApps in blockchain terminology, are different from the other applications that you and I are more familiar with. So let's start with distributed systems. So simply put, distributed systems are components of an application which have been distributed across a number of interconnected nodes, and these nodes talk to each other. At the center, you have something like a DNS domain, a DNS server, and then you have on the other end the web server, which actually provides the content for the website, and that web server might be connected to an external database. So this is how the World Wide Web behaves as a distributed system. So distributed systems offer some benefits. So they are more scalable than your standalone ones, and they can be engineered for high availability. And these are two attributes which are highly desirable for any blockchain application. And then distributed systems can be centralized and decentralized. So when we say centralized distributed systems, we need to say that there is a central authority that exercises control or influence over the functioning of the rest of the system. So I'll give an example. For example, the World Wide Web example that we just discussed. So the domain name server can act as a central authority in this case. Whereas in a decentralized system, we don't have a central authority, and the decisions are taken in a more democratic way. And now let's look at some challenges with distributed systems which are applicable to blockchains. So the first one is synchronization. So all the nodes in this distributed systems should work in a synchronized manner. And by that we don't mean they should be doing the same things at the same time. But what we mean is that they should agree to a common set of data or a common system state so that they can effectively collaborate. And this is particularly important for a decentralized systems, because in the absence of a central authority, we need to find a way so that these nodes can agree to a common set of data. So we'll see more about this when we discuss blockchains. And the next challenge for a distributed systems is security. Now, distributed systems have a bigger footprint because you have a number of servers which are talking to each other using messages. So you not only have to secure the individual nodes, but you also have to secure the messaging that goes on between them. And then distributed systems have external and internal threats, like some threats we all know, like someone from outside is trying to damage the system. And they also have to deal with the internal threats. So for example, in a decentralized systems, some of the nodes could actually start acting in a malicious way. That's because maybe they have been hacked, or maybe the people who operate those nodes are trying to take some unfair advantage of the system. So in blockchain, these are the challenges that we have to address. So now let's look at blockchains. So as we have seen by now, blockchains are also called a distributed ledger technology. So basically, this is essentially what a blockchain is. It's a ledger of transactions which is securely distributed across a number of nodes, and each of those nodes maintains a copy of this blockchain. So blockchains are distributed systems, but they are different from normal systems because the nodes which are members of a blockchain network may not inherently trust each other. And this is where blockchains need to be decentralized. Because when the nodes don't trust each other, they may not agree for one node to act as a central authority that controls the whole network. So all of those nodes prefer working in an autonomous way. And And then blockchains offer data immutability, that we all know that data once it's in the blockchain cannot be changed. And then you have data integrity. So by data integrity, what we mean is that the data on the blockchain can be verified at any point of time for correctness. So if you start with the first block of a blockchain and then apply all the transactions that have taken place since then, you will arrive at the same set of blocks which are in the current blockchain, and you can actually verify that you have produced the same blockchain. The next is, so if you recall from the last slide, we identified two challenges for distributed systems. So one of them was synchronization. Now synchronization takes a different dimension on blockchains because the nodes don't trust each other, so we need to find a way so that they can agree to a common set of data, because all of them have to store the same data. So the way it is done in blockchains is called consensus mechanism. And we have different algorithms for it. You must have heard about proof of work, proof of stake, proof of elapsed time, or it could be something like a simple voting or a delegation. So there are various algorithms, and as a blockchain developer, you need to be aware of what kind of algorithm the blockchain framework that you are trying to use offers, because it has an impact on the performance of the blockchain. And the other challenge that we identified with distributed systems was the security. So in the blockchain, blockchains pride themselves for providing a very secure environment, and they do this by relying heavily on cryptography. So everything in the blockchain, right from how you access it and how you operate it and all the data inside the blockchain, it's all cryptographically secure. And then by meeting all these points, blockchains are able to provide this trust between a network of nodes which initially don't trust each other. And now they can confidently transact with each other in this environment. So from blockchain being a distributed ledger, the technology has improved and blockchains have evolved into being a distributed computing platform. So if you think about it, this is really a very remarkable development. Because now, from being simply able to record a set of transactions on a ledger, what you can now do is run applications as you do in other platforms, like for example Unix or Windows or any other computing platforms. So it is now possible to actually program complex business logic into programs called smart contracts, and then deploy them to run on blockchain infrastructure as distributed applications. And then since a lot of frameworks have been developed that target specific use cases. So you have Ethereum, which deals with mostly public blockchains. Then you have Hyperledger, which is an umbrella of different blockchain frameworks targeting specific industries. And then you have Corda, which Rajiv just talked about, which targets the financial institutions and the banks. And all these frameworks are in different stages of development, and these developments are quite recent. So all these programs suffer from a certain lack of stability and maturity, and they're still evolving. So as a blockchain developer, you have to carefully evaluate what platform to use. The next thing is the development environment that these different frameworks offer. So some of them use different languages for writing smart contracts. For example, Ethereum uses Solidity, and then some others use Java, JavaScript, Go language. So these are the things that you should also have to carefully evaluate. And now we looked at certain considerations for building dApps or distributed applications on blockchain, and how these are different from the normal applications that we are more familiar with. So the first thing is the execution environment of the blockchain. So the blockchain runs these applications or smart contracts in a sandbox or in an isolated way. So you can't interact with much of the other systems in the node, and some of these systems, some of the services may not be available to you. For example, the file system or the network. So you have to use the services which are being offered by the blockchain framework. And the next is all the nodes in the blockchain use the same data to execute the same smart contracts, and then they should come out with the same output. So how it matters is that if you write a smart contract that is using a data element which is not available or it's not the same across all the nodes, then the result of this smart contract will be different on different nodes. For example, if you're using a random number and you're not ensuring that all the nodes generate the same random number, the output on all the nodes will be different, and that would break the consensus. Identity is a very important concept in blockchains because they are secure. So you need identity for authentication, for authenticating your transactions. You need identity for authorization, which is what you can do and what you can't on the blockchain, and then for audit. And then, depending on the use case, the level of information requirements for identity range from being anonymous, which is like in your Bitcoin, where your identity is simply a set of alphanumeric characters. And then for certain use cases, there is a requirement for verified identities, maybe like say you have a KYC use case for a bank. Okay, I missed this point. Blockchain data is not private, so all the data in the blockchain is shared across all the nodes. So we need to be careful that whatever data you are submitting to the blockchain can be seen by everyone else. So unless the framework that you're using provides methods in which you can secure that data, you should be careful on what kind of data you submit to the blockchain. And we have all the blockchains work with a transaction model like databases. So the way to change the data or the state of a blockchain is to submit a transaction, and then that transaction calls these smart contracts which get executed. Now, this process is asynchronous, and depending on the framework and the consensus mechanism and how the framework has been configured, the transaction completion times vary. I mean, it could be as low as instantaneous to as high as few hours. So this is something that you should keep in mind whether your distributed application can tolerate these sorts of variable delays. And the last point we have is irreversibility and provenance. Irreversibility basically means is that whatever data you once write on the blockchain cannot be overwritten, and the only way, and if you have written something which you think is inconsistent, then the only way to correct it is to submit another transaction which writes the correct data. And provenance is there, so the incorrect data will also be recorded, and the correct data will be recorded in the next block. And the history of all data changes in the blockchain are available, they are accessible, and they can be used for audit. So I hope I've been able to explain some of the key concepts behind distributed applications on blockchains. And at Symblock, we have developed a platform which helps enterprises quickly build blockchain applications. And BlockSecure is the name of the platform, and it does so by managing identities, assets, and ensuring secure transactions within the blockchain, all using smart contracts. So identities, assets, and transactions are the building blocks of most of the use cases which are applicable for enterprises, which can be moved to the blockchain. So I hope it will turn out to be a useful tool for enterprises who are looking forward to using blockchain. So I'll be available throughout the day, and if you have any questions, you can come and ask me. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, Gaurav. So we have the next talk by Mr. Araf Karsh Hamid. He's co-founder CPO of MetaMagic Global. He'll be talking on blockchain technology and hyperledger. Can we have his presentation on the screen, please?
Yeah, hi. Good morning. I was actually planning to do this presentation 1 month back, but I know some new idea came up and we launched a new product in 4 weeks' time. And finally, I ended up doing this presentation yesterday night. And today morning, around 5 o'clock, I finished the presentation, slept for 1 hour, then I started to be screening around 7 o'clock in the morning. So if I just lots of just shout and just take me up. Okay, so we are into platform automation. Like we started working on a microservices automation platform, and along with that, we are planning a blockchain-based automation platform. So over here in this talk, I'm focusing on Hyperledger Fabric specifically. So the topics are, why do we need blockchain? What is the purpose of blockchain? That's the first topic. And the second one is getting a little bit deeper into Hyperledger architecture, the fabric, what exactly the fabric is all about, and a little more internals in terms of how exactly a transaction flows in the Hyperledger fabric when you talk about when it compared to a traditional way. And towards the end, this is a small comparison between Ethereum and the Hyperledger fabric. So let me start with the problem statement. So Rajiv was talking about the reason why blockchain is there. A lot of enterprises when they work together, a lot of enterprises their applications are in silos. So the huge amount of time is being spent on on the documentation part and everything. And if there's a problem and there's the reconciliation problem, then all those things takes a huge amount of time. It takes a huge amount of cost. So that's a typical scenario where you have customers, merchants, banks, regulators, insurers, auditors, everybody working in different systems, and there's a huge amount of time to taken to reconcile everything and all those stuff. So how does blockchain solve this problem? So here the issue is it's very expensive. The entire process is very expensive. It's vulnerable, and it's a completely inefficient process. So when you bring the blockchain into the picture, what the blockchain does is basically it creates a distributed ledger which everybody works on on the distributed ledger, and it's shared and it's permission based. So the blockchain, the distributed app actually can decide who actually sees what, and so all those permissions can be given, and then the different parties are going to see what exactly they're supposed to see from a distributed ledger data perspective. So over here, if you look at the key aspect of the blockchain, what it brings is consensus. The data is completely immutable, and provenance means you can see the origin of the data, origin of the asset, when exactly the asset was originated, and where exactly the asset is at this point in time. And finally, the most important aspect is the finality, where the blockchain, the distributed ledger data is the single source of truth. So there is no issue between conflict between two parties anymore, because there is one single source of truth from distributed ledger data perspective. So that's what the blockchain solution, the problem the blockchain-based solution is going to solve. So let me go a little more deeper into exactly from a business requirement. So the first one is privacy. So the transactions are secure. So you can decide how the transaction needs to be stored in the blockchain. If you want to encrypt, you can encrypt the transaction and keep the transaction. And Rajiv spoke about one aspect of trust and transparency. Let's say there's let's take a use case where a lot of different parties working together in the blockchain, and one party, let's say one customer wants to have a special contract with another vendor, and you don't want that special pricing to be seen by any other parties. Now, if it is transparent and everybody is going to see everything, all the pricing and everything, that can potentially create problems in the customer space. So what Hyperledger, one of the new features in version 1.0 of Hyperledger Fabric is they got something like channels. So it can create a separate Hyperledger, the blockchain infrastructure for that particular set of environment from that perspective. So that's where the trust and transparency comes into the picture. And shared ledger is appendable, it's immutable, and smart contract where all your business logic in terms of querying the database, querying the ledger, or committing any transaction into the ledger, everything is part of the smart contract. So that's the business requirement. So properties of a distributed ledger. I think as this has been said, in the last 2-3 presentations we just heard about all these things. So it's decentralized, replicated across network. It's completely immutable. It's an appendable system, and it gives a single it gives the original of the source of the asset. And the last part is so in a typical enterprise systems, today we have systems of record. So every enterprise, they keep their own systems of record. So when you move into blockchain, what happens is from a systems of record, you're actually moving into systems of proof, because nobody questions, once the record is committed to the ledger, nobody is going to question that, because it's all happened because of a consensus across the parties and everything. So from systems of record of individual corporate, it becomes a systems of proof for all the enterprises who is working on that particular ledger. So how is it different from Bitcoin? Bitcoin is actually an application which is written on top of blockchain technology. So if you look at the Bitcoin part, I mean, it can be anonymous in Bitcoin. The consensus is based on proof of work, and it's a cryptocurrency. While in a hyperledger or blockchain technologies, it provides identity, so we know exactly who we are dealing with. It's a selective endorsement from a consensus perspective, and instead of currency, it focuses on assets. So that's why the hyperledger fabric, it's different from the concept of how the Bitcoin is implemented. Okay, so the key fabric features, it's private and it's permission based. It's got member service provider, that's another feature. So every member who's coming into the blockchain hyperledger needs to be agreed upon by all the parties. So that's what the membership service is supported. And the consent mechanism can be switched in and out. So it's a completely pluggable and module-based system. And the most important aspect of it is ability to create channels. So that just came out in the 1.0 version of the, and that's most interesting part from a Hyperledger Fabric 1.0 perspective. So the other key features are identity management. It gives a complete set of identities to all the parties coming in, and you can decide what's the rules for that party, what exactly it can do. Can it commit the transaction, or it can view the transaction? So all those kinds of rules you can give from an identity perspective. Then privacy and confidentiality. So that's where the channels comes into picture. Then efficient processing, because the way I'll explain this a little bit more in another diagram where a lot of components are there in the diagram. Why the Hyperledger Fabric has got a very efficient processing. And chain code functionality, that's where the smart contract. So what you hear about smart contract is actually chain code in Hyperledger. And today it's written in Go language, so the chain code you have to write in Go language. Okay, so it's a typical Hyperledger network over here. So you have a lot of different parties coming into the picture. There's something called peer, which actually works on committing to the database, the ledger, or reading data from the ledger. So that's what the peer is all about. And order and certificate authority are two different components available in the entire ledger family. So I just put a microservice architecture over here. Apart from the Hyperledger, the corporates will be having microservices-based architecture behind the scene, which will talk to the blockchain network. So I just skip this part. I just put this from an academic perspective. So the three components of the fabric. So you saw that peer, you saw certificate authority, and you saw the order part. The first part is the certificate authority. So anybody who want to be part of that fabric entire ledger need to be given an identity by the certificate authority, and the certificates are created, and it ensures that every single operations are signed, so that there is no question about who actually created the asset, who actually worked on that particular asset. So all those things are done by the certificate authority. And peer is the one which actually works on the ledger basically. So peer works on committing the data into the ledger, or reading the data back into the ledger. That's what the peer does. And there are two types of peer from that perspective. One is an endorser peer, and second one is a committer peer, which actually commits the transaction to the ledger. And order one, it collects data from all those peers across the network. And what order does is, it doesn't go into any transaction verification from that perspective, but it will do certain amount of policy validation. For example, if your policy says that this particular transaction needs to be validated or endorsed by all the peers in the network, then order will check that part and then see, if that transaction is endorsed by all the peers. If it is not endorsed, then it will reject the transaction. So that's what the order will do. And apart from that, order will, the basic idea for order is, but from a channel perspective, we will order all the transactions, create the blocks, and then finally send it back to the peers to actually do the commit. So that's what the order does. Now, because of all these different modules coming up, and order can be scaled based on Kafka behind the scene, and your peer can, a number of peers across the network. And because of this modular nature of the Hyperledger fabric, that's why the processing is highly efficient, and you can have a pretty good scalability from that perspective. That's the three components of fabric. Okay, so apart from that, there are a lot of other things when you get into the Hyperledger from the first thing is asset. So anything what you do with the Hyperledger, you talk about asset. The asset can be your products, it can be any of those things we just got a value attached to it. So that's the first part when you actually get into the fabric. The next part is the chain code. Okay, what exactly this asset is supposed to do, right? What kind of logic business rules is valid for this asset? Like, how can the asset be changed, or how can the asset be removed, or so all those business logic will be going into the chain code part in Hyperledger. Then there ledger behind the scenes. So the ledger in Fabric, there are two aspects of the ledger. One is your transaction log, that's actually your blockchain part of that. And the second part of the ledger is it's called a world state. So that's the second part of the ledger. Okay. And like I said, the Hyperledger, they introduced the channels over here. So every channel will have its own private ledgers. It will have its own parties working on that. So when you look at the channel perspective, what channel is basically it's completely it's like you're creating a subnet on your network. So you create a completely different channel altogether, and you decide who can participate in the channel. And the channel will be completely separate with its own ledgers and its own activities around it. Yeah, so this is all about peers validating the transaction against the endorsements and endorsement policies. I know there's a lot of text in this, so I'll move on to some slides which will have some more graphics from that perspective. Okay, so this what fascinated me in Hyperledger, this particular version is this is the one, the channels. So you can create a complete set of subnets or a complete instance of Hyperledger between specific parties and programmatically created using the SDKs available on the Hyperledger. So that's the most interesting aspect. And this is something completely unique across all the solutions right now. Only Fabric has got this particular feature available. And this is where what Raju was talking about, if the entire data is transparent to everyone, then how can somebody come up with a completely different data set and then work on the exactly the same network. So that's where the channel is going to help. Now, how does the peers communicate? So another aspect of the Hyperledger is the gossip protocol. So this protocol ensures that all the peer-to-peer communication happens. Now, we talked about two things, right? The ledger is divided into two things. One is the transaction log, and second one is the world state, which basically says what is the current state of your assets. So what using the gossip protocol, what happens is, even if one peer goes out of sync or the world state goes out of sync, using gossip protocol, all the peers will ensure that everything is automatically in sync. So there is like if somebody can say, okay, what happens? Somebody hacked into it and then changes something. So what this using the gossip protocol, what the peer does is it automatically ensures that anything which goes out of sync, it syncs automatically. And if a new peer comes into the picture, then it'll bring the old ledger back and syncs up completely. So everything happens through gossip protocol. Okay, so this is the last part of this, transaction. In a typical, non-blockchain based systems, Like, everybody work with, relational database. When you say transaction management, it's pretty simple and straightforward. So in a blockchain perspective, it's a bit more complex, the managing the entire transaction. So here the use case scenario is customer one ordered a set of flowers from a merchant, and how exactly all those process start. So you start with creating a proposal, a request, a proposal of ordering the flowers and everything, and the peer looks at the identity of who is the customer, who is raising this request, and is that person is valid in the network. So that's what the peer endorsement, the first thing it does. So once all those things are done, the peer does all those endorsement from what are the chain code policies which we define. Now there's one more thing. When you create a certificate and when you assign a certificate to a user or whoever is actually working with the blockchain, you can add attributes into the certificate. So even those attributes the chain code can read. And so you can go into very granular level of who can see what and what kind of operations the person can do. So all those things you can do from that perspective. So once the endorsing is once it's validated, the next part the peer will what the peer will do is it will simulate the actual transaction committing process, and what it creates is basically, so you have an asset and the asset is moving from, let's say, A to B, and then there's some changes happening. So what the peer will do is it will simulate the data set and creates a read and write data set, and it sends back to the client, which is being called this thing. So that's what the execute part is all about. And it signs the proposal, and once the party get this one, it checks further, it's all endorsed and it's all signed and all those things are happened. And once this transaction, all those things are checked, then it sends the data back to the ordering the orderer. So orderer is the one which actually takes this data, see the endorsement, what are the policies for this particular transaction. Okay, the policy says okay, this transaction should be endorsed by A, B, C peers. Then it will check whether all those peers endorsement is there in this particular transaction section. Once order knows that okay, everything is done, everything is perfect, then it will create the block, the actual block which can contain a number of transactions. So now let's say for some reason one particular transaction is invalid. So even if it is invalid, you still go into the block saying that the transaction is marked as invalid, and then the block will be sent to the peers, and the peers will finally complete the transaction. So validation, the order will send all the peers will get the entire block from the ordering server, and the peers finally will commit. So that's the time the ledger gets updated. So that's the entire transaction flow in a Fabric environment. So right from how the endorsement happens, how the validations happen, how the peers will create the blocks, and so there are certain aspects when you actually work on this part. Like for example, when you want to create a transaction block, and if you give a very high number to create a, you say okay, my block should contain 10,000 records or 10,000 transactions, and then if it should going to take a huge amount of time to come up to 10,000 records, then you could have performance issues. So you need to literally figure out what exactly is use case scenario, how many transactions you are going to generate per second, right? And what should be your block size? And in case if the transaction didn't match up to the count, then you need to commit the blocks in between. So all those things you can configure from a Fabric perspective. So that's what the transaction flow is all about. So that's basically a comparison between Ethereum and Hyperledger Fabric. Ethereum is focused on from a currency perspective, and Hyperledger is completely focused on from an asset perspective. So end of the day, what's the benefit? So the benefit is a huge amount of time is saved because now there's no reconciliation requirement across enterprises. So every enterprises there is a single source of truth. So no issues. No data discrepancy, no issues, anything like that. So increased trust because everybody knows exactly who's there in the network. So you don't have a typical permission-based network. You don't have an anonymous party in your network. So that's where the trust comes in, and then it reduces the risk because it's virtually it's not technically impossible, but it's virtually impossible to tamper with the data. Because if you want to tamper the data, you have to literally rewrite every 3 years data over the network. So that's why it's you can say it's a tamper-proof. Even though technically it's feasible, but practically it's impossible to tamper with the data. And the last part, because you are maintaining every enterprise maintaining a lot of different silos, a lot of different compilation of data across a lot of different parties. Now everybody is on a single ledger, so the maintenance cost of maintaining different systems is completely gone. So that's it. And if I did it 10 minutes, so some references, and that's it. Thank you.
So we have the last lightning talk of this session by Mr. Prasad Singh. He is SEMI at Blockchain Center of Excellence, Wipro. He'll be talking on blockchain consortia and its impact. And after this session, we'll take the question and answer from the audience.
So we had speakers talking about various applications and platforms, but I'm going to talk about the applicability of part of it. So we are seeing that a lot of applications we are hearing in different verticals, different industries. How we are going to make it real? How we are going to make it to bring it to our day-to-day work or processes? So it is either going to be with the help of enterprises or governments, or a collective effort from enterprises and governments. So that's what these enterprises and governments have come together to form a group or consortium. So that's what our topic of today is, in which we are going to look how consortiums are being formed, how many types of consortiums are there, what is their effort, and where is it going towards. So we are seeing that a lot of consortiums are formed in different verticals and different industries. So it is either a herd movement, I would say, or it is provided by the technology itself. Herd movement, what I'm saying here is, let's say if blockchain is a different technology which has come into this space, and all the industry participants or enterprises coming together to try that application out. So to minimize the risk, to make sure that what our competitor is doing, I would do the same. To minimize the liability or failures in those applications, these enterprises are coming towards and trying to form a blockchain consortia. So it's an option one, or option two is this consortia or grouping of enterprises itself motivated by technology itself, because blockchain is a technology which promotes collaboration. It asks us, it fundamentally tells us how people or stakeholders in a value chain can transact in a better way. So does it really require a blockchain application which is asking all the enterprises or people to come together onto a blockchain platform and have a service around it? And there are different types of applications or consortia being formed here. Consortia, I would say, is basically two types: business focused or technology focused. Business focused consortia are the consortia in which business or financial institutions are coming together and trying to solve a business application or a industry issue. Second part is your technology focused consortia in which IT companies or open source communities are coming together and trying to evaluate or develop a blockchain platform as the example which was explained with the Hyperledger presentation earlier. So that kind of consortia are being formed. And the third part is, it is a combination of both. We take an example of R3, which was discussed earlier today in the morning. It is a combination of both business and technology focus. All the banks and financial institutions have come towards building this R3 consortium, and also R3 has formed its own blockchain platform called Corda. So there are a variety of consortia being formed, big or small. It is It does have regulators, government bodies. It does not have. It includes industry utility or industry-wide issue, or it caters to a very small application like, let's say, loyalty management. So consortia are coming in different forms and shapes. I'm not sure if the diagram is visible, but it shows the major spread of consortia across the world. So major part has been in major consortia are being formed in either Europe, US, and few in Singapore, Middle East as well. This is another spread of consortia being depicted in terms of sector-wise, in which we can see that it is more skewed towards the financial services. And this is the statistics which is provided by Deloitte in early 2017. But there are a lot of more consortia being formed throughout the year, mostly in last 6 and 9 months. And it has more evenly distributed. Now what we are seeing is there are consortia being formed in every vertical, in energy, transport alliance, loyalty, consumer product groups, etc., etc. Right now, I'll give an example of few blockchain consortia being formed. I have taken example in terms of different types. First one is Energy Web Foundation. Energy Web Foundation is a collaborative effort by major oil and gas and energy utility companies across Europe, and they have come forward to evaluate various applications under their umbrella. So what they're doing is they're targeting different use cases among themselves. They have come up with applications like energy trading management, P2P energy sharing, then electric vehicle charging and sharing mechanism. So they're forming such smaller groups of functions under this umbrella. Second example I would give is Global Blockchain Council in Middle East in Dubai. It has got pretty good foundation or governance, I would say. It is backed by Dubai Future Foundation and the government itself. So they launch challenges every year in different areas, either be loyalty or road transport to remittance. So all these challenges are launched worldwide, and vendors like us or startups try to address the challenge. There is a proper hackathons and presentations happen, and finally the winners or selected ones collaborate and work with this entity and take the applications towards realization. Third one, it was talked by Mr. Araf itself. It's Hyperledger. It's a global technology-based consortium which has taken worldwide a lot of institutions to contribute and build a lot of applications. What I would talk to here in this slide is companies like us or financial institutions or startups are together collaboratively join into one of such consortia. So what I want to depict here is we need to do some homework before joining these consortia. Which consortia should we join? What vision do they have? Do they really want to target the standards of industry, or they are targeting very small applications or not? In the earlier presentation by Mr. Nair, we could see that the major audience or participation is from IT and financial services. So we are all vendors to this blockchain application. So as a vendor to blockchain application, earlier in 2016 and 17, we saw that we went to individual enterprises and financial institutions to take or implement our applications, but that didn't work quite well. In the later part of 2017, the strategy has changed a bit. We are taking GTM for consortia. We're calling it consortia GTM. So now, with the earlier example stated, vendors like us and startups are working to realize those applications, and it seems much easier because you get all the stakeholders in value chain already onboarded into that table of consortia. So that makes it more feasible. And my last slide would be, how does it look like working with a consortia? As I said, it's getting all the stakeholders of the value chain in one room. For example, the earlier example which we looked today was trade finance. Trade finance typically requires the traders, their respective banks, custom authorities, and even the shippers. So let's imagine a boardroom in which all these parties have representatives, and they jointly work to take this application forward. So it makes pretty easy. Otherwise, if I earlier went to a bank to take our trade finance application, it would have been pretty difficult getting other stakeholders onboarded and try that application out. So that way, the way it functions is we quite frequently have a lot of hackathons and prototypes built and have presentations. It is not just one vendor into the system which tries to create that application, but many of them. And we daily have surgery calls, information sharing over the Slacks and like that. So it is a pretty competitive as well as collaborative environment in which we work with blockchain consortia. And I see the applications or blockchain applications to take into real shape with consortia only. So thank you everyone.
The question to raise their hand. We have a question at the back. Can we have the mic, please? To be taken at the back.
I think SEBI and Ripple. Could you elaborate on that?
So there are many such geography-based as well as industry-wide consortia being formed. In Japan, I guess it is between a couple of banks and SBI. SBI is not Indian SBI, but Japanese bank SBI. So it is different than that.